Greetings, loved ones. Today, we're going to talk about the dangers that exist when you try to leave an intimate partner who has been abusing you. To help get these messages out, please subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, hit that like button, and please share these messages with others because you never know, just by doing so, you could save a life. Forgive my voice. We have COVID here at the mission, and we're recovering, so if you could say a prayer for us, that would be great. But here I am. We're continuing the work. Domestic violence survivors can face daunting obstacles when leaving an abuser. That is why it is good to know some of the potential challenges beforehand, so each can be considered and addressed proactively. As unfair as it is, it's important that survivors are aware of the dangers. They work with a trained domestic violence advocate on these issues, and they put a safety plan in place whenever possible. We need to speak honestly about these dangerous situations, not to frighten you if you are a victim of violence or someone who wants to help one, but to make you aware of the dangers and to know what to do to keep you safe. When a survivor leaves a violent, intimate partner, there is an increased risk of abuse. Vanessa Morrison, operation manager at Palomar, Oklahoma City's Family Justice Center, says that domestic violence, like all violence, is about power and control. When you take away that power and control, there can be a high level of danger, including homicide or serious injury. It can be a very dangerous time, especially if you don't have the means to relocate or navigate out of the situation. There is also a risk of loss of income and financial stability. Morrison says, if you can have someone broken down financially, you have a lot of power. You can ruin their credit and take away their means of sustaining their life. That was the case for domestic violence survivor Bridget Cox, who says, the day I filed for divorce, he completely cut me off. My phone, my insurance, he stopped paying bills. It was punishment. And because she and her husband ran a business together, her income drops to nothing. Cox says, we had a $7 million portfolio, and our business had been successful for years. After she left, she took any work she could find, painting houses, baling hay, construction, and landscaping. She ultimately moved from Georgia to Arizona, where she got a job advocating for other domestic violence survivors. Additional issues can arise, some temporary and others problematic for long term, such as inability to access bank and credit card accounts, difficulty obtaining new credit cards and credit facilities, changes in credit scores, unexpected liabilities related to point property like loans and taxes, and self-managing one's finances. And then there is also the risk of increased isolation. Abusers are very skilled at keeping survivors under their power and control by slowly cutting off access to their support systems. Survivors can become dependent on abusers and feel disconnected from family and friends. Isolation can be worse when survivors feel religious or cultural pressure to stay in a marriage or to stay together for the sake of the children. Never do that. If you're in danger, you need to leave. Morrison says that victims feel like they've committed to the person, and even though the relationship is unhealthy and the partner is abusive, it can be someone they love and care about. They may feel they need to make it work or to get through a tough time. And there is the risk also of defamation. Morrison tells us that abusers are master manipulators. They are very good at what they do. When survivors reach out for help, abusers may spread rumors about them. They can make themselves look good and make the survivor look crazy and unstable. They may even convince people that the survivor has done terrible things and even try to alter a survivor's employability. Cox struggled to find work after she left her husband because they had partnered together in business for years, so he was her only reference. She says, it was embarrassing. I had to go through my history every time I applied for a job. I really believe I didn't get jobs, she says, because of it. People don't want to hire you if they think some guy is going to come in and shoot the place up. So, if possible, it is important for you to maintain a professional network separate from your abuser. People you can turn to if you need to find a job. You might also reach out to a domestic violence organization. Advocates there can provide pointers for finding employment and for explaining to employers how they can stay safe. Another risk to leaving is the loss of self-reliance. Abusers work to make survivors emotionally dependent on them And so survivors can struggle to be independent. When survivors leave, they might also have to relocate, leaving behind their home, their job, children's school, and stability. And these tasks can be especially daunting for someone who has been isolated. Survivors might not have the life skills they need to know how to find housing and search for a job or register their children for school. Abusers may have limited their interactions with the outside world, and they may not know where to turn for help. Morrison says that some victims have means or family elsewhere, but a lot don't. They feel trapped. They don't feel like there is a way out. Leaving is not easy, and neither are the legalities of leaving because of court system complexities. Survivors may not get the support they need and expect from the court system and other institutions. The court system may be disjointed. Survivors may see one judge for an order of protection or a restraining order, and another in family court, and a third for divorce. And the laws are sometimes surprising or seemingly unfair under the circumstances. But there are free legal services out there. I recommend you look at administerjustice.org. We're connected with them. I'll say it again, administerjustice.org, and see if they have a legal clinic near you. Your local shelters could also give you information on where to find legal help. The trauma a survivor has faced can cause additional complications when they leave a violent partner, such as mental health problems. Morrison states that domestic violence that any person experiences, no matter how long or short the traumatic experience is, has impacts physically, psychologically, and emotionally. Survivors can struggle with a lack of confidence, anxiety, and depression, and it can take a long time to heal. Cox shares her experience with this, saying, "For me, it was mostly my self-esteem. You think you can make somebody love you or treat you the way you think you're supposed to be treated." She says, "I invested 30 years into the relationship, and I just felt like a failure. I felt like I couldn't live up to the expectations of what a marriage and a family was supposed to look like." In addition to all of these challenges, there is a risk of criminal charges and incarceration. Some abusers charge survivors with crimes. Cox's husband accused her of hit and run and battery. He claimed that she ran him over with a car. She couldn't leave the state of Georgia for 2 years. It cost her $25,000 to fight the accusation, and she also spent 2 nights in jail when she was arrested and 10 nights in jail for a separate charge of aggravated stalking. If she hadn't had a friend who could post bond for her, she would have stayed in jail until her trial, which turned out to be 2 years later. I know this all sounds daunting, but there is help out there to help you navigate these things. Your local domestic violence organization can refer you to lay legal help if needed. There is also something called an anti-SLAPP law, which works to prevent your abuser from suing you for defamation if you report domestic violence. And among the challenges of leaving, there is loss of many things, such as loss of property. Survivors may have to leave their homes with a couple of bags or less. Cox couldn't return to her home after she left, partially because of the criminal charges against her. She lost her own property, as well as items of her mother's that were in her house. Another possible loss when a survivor leaves her abuser is the loss of relationships with children. Children of any age can have difficulty dealing with their parents' separation. Cox's children were adults when she left her husband, but she had to be willing to let go of her relationship with them. Cox says, "Today they realize I did the right thing, but it was probably a year before they were able to understand that I wasn't trying to hurt anybody. I was trying to save my own life." I know this can all sound overwhelming and might even make you think it would be better to stay in your abusive relationship. But just because challenges are in front of you, it doesn't mean you can't plan ahead to avoid or prevent some of them and to prepare for those you can't avoid. It is work, but your life is worth it. So let's talk about how you can cut the costs. Well, every survivor and every situation is different. There's one thing that can help: reaching out for support. People in crisis agencies across the country are especially trained and educated in how to help you navigate out of these relationships. Domestic violence is very dangerous. It's important to connect with an expert agency that can help you remain as safe as possible and help you get things like food, clothes, gas cards, and other resources. Even if you're not ready to leave, you can connect with these organizations and have these conversations. Cox concedes, again, that's the COVID, pray for us. Cox concedes that not reaching out for help was a big mistake. She says, I knew resources were available, but I didn't think I could have them. She felt that because she had been financially successful, these options weren't for her. I would tell anybody who wants to get out to reach out to a coalition or to the resources that are available. This is Cox's recommendation. There are resources all over the country. Just make one phone call. With 1 in 3 women experiencing domestic violence worldwide, the question is not if you will encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is, what will you do when you do encounter them? You could be the person who saves a life. You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice. Those who suffer violence need to know that those who love them and those who don't even know them will step out and reach out to them to give them the help and the courage they need to leave before it's too late. Help us get these messages out so those who are suffering know there's a way out, and for those who are not suffering, know how to help someone. Subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit the like button, and please share these messages with others because you never know, just by doing so, you could save a life. If you're a victim of violence, I want you to listen to me, and I want you to know this. You are valued. You are loved. You are intelligent. You are beautiful. God doesn't want you to suffer violence. He wants you to live free from violence in peace and tranquility. There is a way out. It's not your fault, and abuse is not love. If you're a victim of violence, reach out to someone now. If you find yourself in a dangerous situation, call 911 and bring that help to your door. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how you can find a safe place when you decide to leave. Until then, God bless you.